Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mallus and Cyber. I'm Nikhil, and this is Krish with me today. We're going to be talking about a couple of topics surrounding AI, and we're going to be diving into a couple of its use cases.
Hello,
Yeah.
all.
Okay.
I hope you all had a happy Easter. Uh, Nikhil, so what's the first topic that you would like to pick up for today?
Yeah. So the first thing that we'd like to look into is, we're seeing a lot of stuff with AI creating, code snippets and creating different types of applications and things like that. How is that going to change the kind of the global scope of security?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, yes, we all used to have Stack Overflows and different things, but the code was always we had to cut, copy, paste, which always brought problems in the security world. But here now we have generate code generators. That's helping a lot of coding. Uh, I was recently working on a small project, small sub project that I was doing, and I saw how the code generator was really useful. Um, so now the question arises is how that's going to help the attackers. That's what I was thinking. And my biggest question is this: in the industry of cybersecurity, there are a lot of consultants like us who work, and I've seen there are two different type of consultants within the AppSec space. We can approximately say they are 50-50. Some of them come from a heavy development background and they know to do security these days, and some of us like us, we I know I pretty much know me and you are in that second category where we know to code. We have a good understanding of how the coding works, but we do not necessarily sit and write code every day. So the AI generator is going to really help us to write those code that we can do because we're not putting anything into the net, or it's not a production based system that we have to be worried about. These are small codes that we write for us, and even today I would be very much ashamed to share some of those scripts I wrote to automate with my friends who are developers because they would never agree I know how to code. So this tool or the AI code generators really help us. But my biggest question there, when I was doing this, is how is it going to help attackers? Because if you see, most of the time, consultants, when they're doing a cybersecurity assessment, we do not completely go in to disrupt the service. For example, whenever we find cross-site scripting, even though there is a lot of things that we can do with cross-site scripting, the most we are trying to do is get a pop-up alert. And once we get that, we have proved that we have got cross-site scripting, and then we move on. We rarely target the system as a full component, right? Like we do not try to extrapolate all the output that we can get and go into the next step of doing it, which a real world attacker definitely does. Uh, Two reasons: we are time bound. Second thing, we are always trying to help the developers rather than create a
Steal
disruption
the
to the
data. Yeah. Mhm.
or even disrupt the
Yeah.
system, right? So now that puts a big question. So before I tell that, like my biggest problem here is that I have lost a lot of my coding abilities. I can definitely say in the last 10 years because I need to know the payloads. 80% of the time, my payloads is I have a list of working payloads that I use very often, and Google is always there to give me more payloads if I really want to. Um, and then some of my own, like looking at it and try to exploit it. But um, in a real world, an attacker can will try to do more than that. And now if he can get these codes to be generated, it's going to help him a lot. So that brings me to the question: XSS, SQL injection, all those are going to be our typical attacks. Those are we are call it critical or we call it high, rarely medium and below, depending upon the scope of the assessment and everything else that is associated with that. But to a larger extent, it's going to be in those high, and we tend to do that. But there are many attacks which we leave as low vulnerabilities or low hanging fruits because to exploit them, it's very difficult because we need to have code written, and we do not spend a lot of time because either there is no available public exploits or it is very difficult to write those exploits. So my question to you is, what will these code generators do in that scenario? What do you think will happen there?
Yeah, so I mean, like, in those examples where we do have, we're writing it as low because like it does require more specialized code. These AI generators will help really lower that barrier to entry. A lot of people who would only be in the like script kiddie type of category of like attackers will now have a lot more capability already rolled out with access to a lot of these AIs. So that's something that like will then start to push up the severity of some of these items that we would typically label as low severity into mediums, maybe even highs, depending on, you know, how easy it becomes to create specialized payloads or specialized scripts for these types of environments.
That's actually scary because
Yeah.
now most companies, right? Even we, when I used to um, write these SDLCs, or when I used to write, like a roadmap for my client as when they have to remediate. Usually, I tell them, "Hey, get your highs remediated within 30 days,"
Right.
and I think most companies focus on that. A lot of companies either ignore the lows because many a time I would reassess these the same application after 6 months or after a year, and the lows that I identified
They're
last
still
time
there.
is still there because
Yeah.
there is nobody. I mean, the bandwidth for them is too less.
Right, right.
uh,
And if they have resources and they have a very limited amount of time, they're going to focus on doing all the high priorities or criticals
and
before.
also they have to roll out new features, so there is
Yeah.
a very high
They're hoping
push.
that it goes away.
Yes, and we all know the truth, right? They hate us. They hate the security consultants. They do not want any assessment to be done. They
Right.
don't want to go and complain. But now with this, my biggest concern is, what do we rate them? Do we still rate them low, or how
Mm,
do we create that awareness? I think
right.
that's something we have to sit and watch. Um, I am definitely starting to get worried. Um, I am looking into these code generators right now to see how useful they are, what
Yep.
kind of code they can generate. But one thing I noticed is that you still need to have a good knowledge of coding. It's because, at least when I worked on my pet project that I was working on, it would never generate the full code, but it
Mm,
generated that big outline that I hated to start writing and come up with.
right.
Now it's more like I get 65% of the code that I don't want to sit and spend time on,
Right.
and slowly debug and write my code. So what would have taken me like 2.5 days to write, I can get done in 8 hours.
Yeah. And that's a game changer for a lot of these like assessments and also like testing in general. But yeah, it also then means that on the other side, it's going to make attacks much more easier to build. Yeah.
One thing that I would want to add is one big thing, because many companies are still not letting LLMs to be in their
Their
laptops
environment.
or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
work environment. But if I am an attacker, if I'm a malicious user, I can do whatever I want on my,
Right.
I
As
can
like
get a
an as like an insider threat type of situation where you have people who are using different tools on like their like shadow IT type of environments and pulling
Yep.
in things that they're not supposed to have, but there's not enough oversight to stop them from doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one other thing that we have to mark as more crazy, because
Right.
who knows who's that one person. I mean, I'm not saying anybody is bad or malicious users, but as a cybersecurity consultants or a cybersecurity professionals, we never want to forget that insider threat is also a big problem.
Right.
Or disgruntled employee. You don't have to be an insider threat. These days, with the amount of layoffs that has been happening, knowing some good secret and then going behind that when you're outside
Yeah.
the
That's
network,
dangerous. Yeah.
and yeah, so that's my biggest concern. So guys out there, I would say, it's time now to start considering mediums and lows. Work out a definite development plan to work around those. I don't think we can leave those lows as a low hanging fruits anymore for a longer period of time.
Right. And the severity systems are going to have to update for this as well, so that those should not, like, going forward, right? They shouldn't be reported as lows anymore. Those should move up to mediums and highs. Yeah.
So
Cool.
that will be an interesting change that we really have to accommodate and talk about it. I mean, I also think it'll take some more time before all of this is going to hit.
Yeah.
It's still very early stages, but malicious users out there, they have plenty of time, and what we don't have. And this again brings me back to that one biggest point I want to talk about, um, is the job market. In the US job market, right now, there are a lot more positions of cybersecurity open. There
Mm,
are people are looking for application security, network security, and with AI coming in, almost all companies are taking up, or looking out for those consultants who has ability to test AI and stuff like that. So the cybersecurity market is really hot. And Nikhil, I think we should remind the subscribers again that
mhm.
we are doing, you know, uh, we are actually releasing some of those 2-minute videos explaining what OWASP Top 10 LLM is.
Yeah,
So look out for those. We are trying to explain to you in 2 minutes what each attack is, and we'll definitely be bringing some guests who can explain more into that.
absolutely. Yeah. So look out for those episodes in the future. So we'll wrap up this episode for today. And we hope to see you in the next one, and look forward to talking more about AI and like the job market and application security and cybersecurity at large.
Yep. Talk to you all.
Cool.
Uh, Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to get more updates.